November 22nd, 2017. And I'm going to do the picks against the spread for week number 13 of the college football season. This is the last big week of regular season play. Most of the conference championship games will be next weekend. And a few of those still to be determined with the participants and hinging on some of these games this week. So let's jump into them and see what we got going on. I hope everyone out there in YouTube land has a great Thanksgiving Day tomorrow. Remember what the day is about. And I hope everything goes well for you. Game tomorrow night, Ole Miss on the road at Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl game. Mississippi State is a 14.5-point favorite at home against Ole Miss. I'm going to take Mississippi State and the points here in this game. I just think Mississippi State's a better team. They've done some good stuff this year. Had a few slip-ups along the way there, but still a solid team. Ole Miss, they'll be starting a coaching search in full effect, I'm sure, after this game is over with. They're going to be entering a period of several years where they're going to be in a downward situation there, being kind of rebuilding mode, reduced number of scholarships and all that stuff that goes with probation. So look for Mississippi State to cover the spread in this one and finish strong. Miami, number 2 team in the nation, the Hurricanes. On the road against Pittsburgh, they are 13.5-point favorites against Pittsburgh. I'm look for Miami to cover the spread here in this one and probably win this one in about the same fashion that they won last week, or maybe by as many points as last week against Virginia, although I don't think they're going to struggle with Pittsburgh in the first half like they did with Virginia. I think Pittsburgh's not as good of a football team as Virginia is. So Miami will get a relatively easy victory there. Missouri on the road against Arkansas. Money is coming in on Arkansas in this game. That line dropped from like 11 to 9.5. Really not sure why. Missouri is just a much better football team, especially the last 6 weeks or so. They've won, I think it's 5 games in a row. I want to say 5 in a row, and won most of them by blowout fashion. Of course, they haven't beaten anybody. Haven't beaten anybody of significance. Haven't really beaten anybody with a winning record. But when you started off the season like they did, they've really turned it around. Arkansas is terrible. That's another team that'll probably be looking for a coach very soon. And looking for the Missouri Tigers to win this game and finish up the regular season, I believe, with a 7-5 record, which is very good for them. That coach, Barry Odom, got himself off the hot seat, I believe, this year, and they got something to build on. South Florida on the road at UCF. This is the championship game of that side of the American Athletic Conference. I'm going to take UCF in this game to win and cover the spread. South Florida, just, the past month or so, they just haven't impressed me. They were really laying the beat down on some teams up until a road game against Tulane. There in the middle of October, they barely squeaked by Tulane in the Superdome, like 30, or not the Superdome, whatever that place is. Tulane not playing Superdome anymore. 34-28, they won that game in New Orleans, barely eked it out. And ever since then, they just haven't been the same football team. They lost to Houston, and they've been winning, but just by not that impressive a margin. I picked them to cover the spread against Tulsa last week. Tulsa was a terrible team. They couldn't do it. I just don't have a lot of faith in them right now. So I think that UCF is going to take that one. 17 to 21 points. Iowa on the road at Nebraska. They're 3.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Nebraska to win this game outright and cover the spread. I was kind of trending down after that big win against Ohio State a few weeks ago. They been kind of disappointing Nebraska last week was down against Penn State, like 42-10 at halftime, and came back and actually made that a respectable game on the road. I don't see Iowa's just not that impressive to me right now. They're definitely trending down, and I'm going to take Nebraska in the points here. Virginia Tech on the road at Virginia. Once again, another team that's trending down against a team that's that can definitely beat them. I just flat don't think Virginia Tech's all that good. I really don't. I think they've kind of been exposed this year, late in the season a little bit. Blown out by Miami. I lost to Georgia Tech, and then last week, close win at home against Pittsburgh, another team that's not very good. Virginia is definitely capable of beating Virginia Tech, I believe, especially at home. I'm going to take the Cavaliers in the points here. Cover the spread. I don't necessarily know that they're going to win this game. I would not be surprised if they do, but I think this is going to be closer than that 7-point margin. Ohio State on the road at Michigan. 12-point favorites. This is one of those big rivalry games. I think that these two teams are pretty evenly matched. I'm going to take Michigan to cover the spread here. I think Ohio State probably will win, but I think this is going to be like a 3-point game. Just a little bit too much offense there from Ohio State, and J.T. Barrett for the Wolverines to handle. But this is going to be, that'll be a good game. Louisville on the road, got Kentucky. And I'm going to take Louisville to cover the spread here. Kentucky, once again, another team. They're 7-4. I just don't think they're very good either. Both teams are actually 7-4, but Louisville's actually improved a little bit the past few weeks. Kentucky is Kentucky. They winning games against mediocre to poor competition in the SEC, but they're struggling against the upper half of the SEC. They're blowing out Vanderbilt one week. The next week, they're getting blown out at Georgia. They're getting blown out by Mississippi State. I don't believe in Kentucky. I don't think they're that good of a football team. I think Louisville's got a little bit too much speed and athleticism for them. Last year's game was an upset, and there's another revenge factor there. I think Louisville feels like they definitely crapped the bed in that game. And I'll look for them to cover the spread here and beat Kentucky rather easily. Georgia on the road at Georgia Tech. It's another one. It's only an 11-point spread. I really don't get that. Georgia Tech just got absolutely manhandled last week by Duke. A team that had lost 6 games in a row coming in. The game is in Atlanta. That gives them, I guess, a little bit of a home field advantage, but let's just be real. That stadium is going to be filled with red and black. I mean, that's not going to be a Georgia Tech crowd. It's going to be a Georgia crowd. You ever been to Atlanta? Atlanta is UGA. Atlanta's UGA territory. Atlanta's not Georgia Tech territory. Georgia Tech people are spread out all over the world. Georgia Tech is not going to be able to stop Georgia. They're not going to be able to run that option on them. Henceforth, they're not going to be able to keep their offense on the field, and Georgia's going to be on the field all day long. Georgia Tech's defense is not good, and Georgia's just going to wear them down. I'll look for that to be at least a 17 to 21-point margin. Georgia wins that game easily. Florida State on the road at Florida. Florida State's 5-point favorites against Florida. Yeah, look, Florida's had a bad season, but Florida State, I mean, the quality of their wins, I mean, it's just not been good. Florida actually improved last week. They beat a team with a pulse. UAB actually does have a pulse. Florida State wore out Delaware State, a team that's they're not really even any good in their own division. They're terrible. And they're FCS. It was just, Florida has a home field advantage there. It's been a while since they've knocked off Florida State. I think they finally do it this year. take the Gators in that game. Boston College. Road game against Syracuse are 3.5-point favorites. Looking for Boston College to cover the spread here. Boston College is a much better team than Syracuse is. Syracuse has fallen apart ever since they beat Clemson. Duke at Wake Forest. Wake's 12-point favorites. That's a lot of points. These two teams still match up pretty well, even though Duke hasn't exactly had a stellar record this year, but they haven't played all that bad at sometimes. I think Wake Forest will win this game. I think it'll be somewhat closer than that. Here's the big one. Alabama at Auburn. They're 4.5-point favorites on the road in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'm going to take Auburn to cover here and win this game. I think that it's finally time somebody over there in the SEC West dethrones Alabama, and who better to do it than the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. Auburn is white hot, been playing really well lately. They destroyed Georgia, which was ranked #1. I think there's no reason why they can't take Alabama down. Alabama's got some problems, especially in the linebacker position. Auburn's going to run the ball there and run it well, and I think they're going to knock off the Crimson Tide, give them their first loss of the season. Iowa State at Kansas State. I'm going to take Iowa State here to cover that spread. They are 3-point underdogs. Kansas State is going to be playing like a fourth-string quarterback in that game. Otherwise, I would pick them to win that one. UNC on the road at NC State. They're 16.5-point underdogs. Once again, it's a rivalry game. That's a lot of points. And I just don't think NC State's that good. They are not. They have kind of shown, in the past few weeks. They lost that loss to Clemson. Last week they lost to Wake Forest. I just don't believe in them like I once did. I think they're 7-4 right now. UNC's won maybe 2 games this year, but that's still a big rivalry, and they can move the ball. UNC is going to cover the spread here. Certainly don't think they're going to win the game, but it'll be closer than that. West Virginia on the road at Oklahoma. West Virginia's playing a backup quarterback, but one that's been in the system for several years. Against the Sooners, Will Greer broke his finger last week in that loss to Texas. Oklahoma, who is 22.5-point favorites at home, also will be without the services of one Baker Mayfield for at least part of the game, serving a suspension for his crotch grabbing incident last Saturday at Kansas. A little bit of immaturity on display there. But, that thing got kind of heated. Nobody really wants to talk about the fact that the guys didn't want to shake Baker's hand. But Baker kind of overreacted to that a little bit, so he has to pay the price. 22.5-point favorites. I think that might give them just a little bit of an edge, enough to cover the spread. West Virginia, I think they'll probably lose by about 3 touchdowns, but, it wouldn't surprise me if they kept it closer than this. West Virginia's not a bad ball team, but they're not the level of being able to beat Miami, and certainly not without Will Greer at quarterback. 4 more. Got to cover real quick here. Vanderbilt on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee's a 1-point favorite. I'm going to take them to cover here. I think they just got better athletes than Vanderbilt. Who'd have thought this would be the dumpster juice bowl for the SEC? Texas A&M at LSU. LSU's performed pretty well ever since that loss to Troy earlier in the season. Texas A&M, not a bad team, but they kind of struggle against the upper part of the SEC West. They kind of struggled against Mississippi State and Auburn a little bit, and so I think LSU one's going to kind of follow suit. 10 points, and I think that LSU covers. Notre Dame at Stanford. Stanford's a 2-point underdog at home. I like Bryce Love. I like that matchup here. Here's that Notre Dame defense. I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover the spread, or Stanford to cover the spread here and win this game against Notre Dame in Palo Alto. Clemson on the road at South Carolina. I'm going to take Clemson to cover the spread there at 1.5 point is huge. I don't think South Carolina can move the ball in that Clemson defense. See y'all later. Peace.